Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Extra Hours, part of the Office Hours Global network. You can find out more, officehours.global/join. That'll get you connected. You'll get daily emails about when we are doing these live shows where we talk about all sorts of media production. In fact, I've even heard of it kind of talked about like a makerspace, like an online makerspace for media, producers and that sort of stuff. So we end up talking lots about like live events, online events, video production, audio production, and we get into lots of AI vibe coding and all that sort of stuff as well. So we're a geeky bunch with a sort of a media output. Is kind of how it's all come together. We've been meeting daily since March 2020. So something about us kept us going, and so we've met all these different people along the way. Here's the lovely bunch. Down in Hollywood, California, is Courtney Gooden. Good evening.
I was just hitchhiking, and the show picked me up. I don't know. I was a stranger. Good evening, Claude. How are things down there? We're watching the sunset along Sunset Boulevard here in Hollywood right now.
Oh, very nice. Look at that. I do think from time to time, I think you're like an inspiration to me, Courtney, as someone who is in the I was going to say the last chapter. That's not what I meant.
The last chapter of their life.
I don't know how many chapters you've got left.
I'm
you're
on
in
the
last
index
book.
at the back, I think, right now.
You're in the last book of life,
Yes.
and you are retired, is what I should say. And I think I'm like, if I was retired, I would be doing something like office hours regularly. Like I think you do it just about daily, and it's
What
a pretty
else is
cool
there
thing,
to do
right?
in retirement?
Right. Well, as a retired motion picture uh,
A retired
professional,
motion picture, that puts it pretty.
One
yeah,
of those
a black and
talkies I
white.
keep hearing about.
Yes.
Courtney is a black and white motion picture. That's how I
I
think
I
of you.
actually started in television when it was black and white. I was a
Oh
television
wow.
cameraman on a DuMont camera with a rack lenses, Didn't even have
Oh
zoom
gee.
lenses back. Yes,
Oh, I didn't ever.
network
We
television.
talk about racking focus, which I
Racking
guess
over,
comes from
yes.
that term, right?
Well, no, but
There you go.
you rack
Okay.
over to a different lens, a different length of lens. So you go, give
Oh
me a two
right.
inch, give me a
Oh,
3 inch lens, give me a
is
one
that
inch.
like
Yeah,
the
that's
ones
when
that had
you'd see
different
the
lenses?
three lenses and you'd
Yeah.
move it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, there you go. Well, that's if we get low on questions, we'll come back to the original cameras.
The old turret lenses, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Lens turret.
Jason Beisch is going to be reading for us tonight. You are in Albuquerque, is that right? New Mexico.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. I sure am.
There we go. Very good. Nice to have you with us. You are a OWC futurist.
Yes.
I love that term.
Greatest title of all time. Yes,
Yeah.
I work at OWC and still have my own consultancy, Nerds Limited, and California headed in the next month or so for at least the summer. We'll see.
Nice. Peter Sargent, it's dropped my mind in which locale you are in. Remind me. You are in unmuted. You're in muted land. There we go.
I'm just outside Austin, Texas, in a town called Round Rock.
Texas. Oh, yeah.
And I, like Courtney, am also retired.
Hmm.
And
Yes, but again, you got that same type of thing that I think about as far as doing cool things in retirement, like having the Boy Scouts on big Zoom meetings and things, right?
I just spent a week doing that for 3 hours a night with 300 scouts each night.
Nice.
So yes.
So be prepared. Fair enough. All right. And then to the final person on the panel tonight is Blue Melnick over in Charleston, South Carolina. Hello. Blue.
Indeed. Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Speaking of having lots of people in Zoom, I think it's been another big week of lots of people in Zoom, right?
It was indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I think we peaked at somewhere around 20,000, something like that. Yeah, it was a fun weekend.
Oh, very cool. Well, we'll see.
Peter, I like that. No. Stop.
No. 300 was fine, Peter's
Yeah.
like.
If they're mostly adults, Blue, I'll give you that one, but try and do it
Well,
with a bunch of 10 and 12-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, listen, adults by age, not necessarily by behavior. How about that?
Very nice. All right. Well, we've got a few questions. I think there'll be some good discussion. I think I've already seen some good topics that we'll get to. So let's see what we can smash out in our hour that we have together. What's the first question, Jason?
First question is Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington asks, has anyone remote produced a show on iPad? Controls would be easy with companion virtual interface, but how would you remote DCV alternative on the iPad?
The closest thing I did, in fact, it's funny, Blue, this is how we met, is that we were on office hours really early on. In fact, I think Blue was the second hour where we talked about the big Zoom meeting you did, the big Zoom meeting with 1,200 people in Zoom.
It felt like a lot at the time.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, it was more than one Zoom meeting, so that was a lot. But I talked about how I was messing around with pushing Companion through like port forwarding and being able to have Companion running on another, actually through a website. And so then you could push the website to a speaker and they could advance slides from our studio at the time. And so it sort of relates, Zach, where now, I mean, just recently, I think, was it just Tuesday just gone, where there was a big Stream Deck Companion Tuesday night, and I think was really cool. We had on Office Hours I'm talking about, and there was Jonas was talking all about it, and saying to everyone, do not expose your Companion instance to the internet. You know, that's a really bad idea. And so there are better ways, and I have done some different tunneling and things of getting, particularly when it's the Companion buttons that you're pushing on a port, and then you could tunnel that through and you could change the port numbers and things, and then you could expose that so that people could open buttons in a browser and then be able to run that Companion instance. Well, I think Companion even does it better with satellite, Companion satellite, which is another way to connect so that you could have Stream Deck instances actually have hardware of Stream Deck in the remote location tied through that system. So have you done that at all, Blue? Have you used Companion satellite at all?
Yeah, we use Companion satellite a lot, but it's local, right? So we have,
local,
it's on a local network. I'm not running it over the interwebs. That feels too complicated for me and too brittle, if I'm being honest.
Right. Yeah, there was something else that the Companion, there's another name of some product for online cloud something, but that I haven't played with yet. But
For a while, they had a Companion in the cloud offering, but they've also gotten very quiet about it in the last 6 months.
Huh. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Didn't Andy
Jason,
have something a while ago where with being able to tunnel into
a long time
what was that
ago.
called? Yeah.
Yeah, what was that called?
Did that disappear? Because that seemed he seemed really excited about that for a minute.
That was their first app. What was it called? Someone, I got to get the chat up because someone will bring it up.
Was it called Frames or something? Or
no, it was the first app because they were pushing all sorts of protocols over SRT, and and so you could send. Oh, I haven't got the chat open. I'm going to find my chat because someone will know. Streamweaver. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Mickey. I knew someone would know. Yeah. So they did close that down, and then just because there's been all these other ways of doing that now. But it was pretty cool at the start. Anyway, so yes, there has been specifically, Zach. I have done some things controlling an ATEM with some different devices, but and from an iPad and things, and also I've used for audio. I've done Mixing Station. I really love Mixing Station, and I've used that remotely as well, and that's been pretty cool too. So, yeah, there you go. Next question.
John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania asks, is anyone using the Moom app to organize windows on their Macs?
First I've heard of it. Jason, what do you know of it?
I've used it on and off. It tends to be a little bit squirrely under Tahoe. This is basically, one of many apps whose purpose is to allow you to pre-set up a whole bunch of different monitors and different applications and have these preset ways that things will snap into place. And Moom's kind of claim to fame is that you can create this, if I'm thinking the right one, you can create a live grid and it will kind of grid out. And if you key up a particular part of the monitor, you can grid, draw into a grid how much of it you would like that particular active program to take up. And then it will zoom and, move to the place that you set up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. It seems to me like some of this has probably been Sherlocked, is the term, where it particularly some of this, like if I do this, oh no, I'm not on. This is not the latest version on this
production
Mac.
machine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is on a lower, older version, but on the new version, you can do like snapping to corners and and that sort of stuff, which is sort of what that is. But obviously, this is a bit more advanced than that. I do like the idea that you could save layouts. In fact, Blue, that's what I was suggesting the other day. When we open a whole bunch of Zoom instances, to be able to save the layout of all those different windows would be really cool. So that particularly when you have one or more 4K, 5K screens, being able to lay out a lot of apps in the same arrangement every time would be pretty cool. So yeah, I haven't played with it, but it sounds cool. Sweet. Next question.
Roz McNulty in Vancouver, Canada asks, what are your predictions or assumptions for the upcoming WWDC this year?
Jason?
So I think because Apple is finally, come out with their creator studio, and I'm sure most of you have heard, Motion VFX is now part of Apple, which is a big acquisition and slight annoyance for me because now I need to go and get those legacy things that I spent all that money on. That they're going to be pushing hard into how to get developers to integrate into their once and evolving suite of apps. I'm thinking of this along the lines of the Adobe Master Collection, circa 6 to 6.5, when they had this disparate group of apps, but they weren't actually all tied together.
Cool. Blue?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're going to see Mac OS 2026, is it?
27?
27, yeah.
I guess it will be.
I think we're probably going to hear a little bit more about AI from them, given their connection with Google, and hopefully we'll start to actually see some AI that actually, works. That would be cool. from Apple.
Nice.
So yeah.
Mhm.
And it'd be interesting
Yeah.
if they then tie that into ways to use that within apps.
Yeah, I think that with Siri, I rarely use Siri now. It's kind of like a thing in the car, maybe to call someone or whatever, but it's so useless. And definitely never on a computer. Like it just is no interest. But if they just turned on, proper kind of a chat AI with Siri, then I'd be using it all the time. And if it was just able to work across all apps, it seems like I just have to connect it, tie it into Google, and what's the problem? Make it happen. So hopefully that is OS's 27s, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, there'll be that sort of stuff. I'm guessing there'll be more vibe coding sort of stuff in Xcode, and there's all that sort of stuff that's going on. So yeah, Peter.
So I'm curious to see if you go into your iPhone under Apple Intelligence and Siri, they've always said select an extension, but it's always been Chat
Yeah.
GPT. I keep waiting to say, well, add a pull down and let's add Gemini instead.
Right. Yeah, the default might become Gemini, and that's it.
Yeah.
But even with that integration, it's not that great.
I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was great, but that's a start. That's a starting point, right? Right.
It is.
And they
It is a starting point.
while it could be the default, my guess is the EU will force them to leave the other one in place.
Right. Cool. Next question.
Greg Shita asks, so what is the latest cool AI tool you've built? And is asking specifically Blue.
I'd say the latest AI tool that we've been working on is essentially something that resembles a learning management system, an LMS, but that is largely driven by AI responses. So rather than selling a digital course as we see it today, where you buy a whole bunch of videos and you watch the videos and then you go do a bunch of stuff, a customized system for creating courses that are AI led rather than content led, where the system asks you a series of questions to help you derive the outcome that you're hoping to get by buying the course. So that's something that we're working on that's AI driven. The latest tool that we worked on that I vibe coded, so that I used AI to build, was we've built a Mac OS Zoom SDK based app for Obvio, for our event platform, that we used this weekend. That was actually pretty awesome. We've been using it for a few weeks now, but this past weekend we used it in production at a large scale because we were running about 20 different Zoom rooms simultaneously across, I don't know, 11 or 12 Macs. So we had some that were running multiple instances on it, and that's really neat because some of the things that I just, as event producers, we wish, I wish Zoom had just built in. We started to bake into our own app. Simple little things like when you have co-hosts in a meeting and they accidentally press the mute all button and mute you as the host. One of the little toggles that we have in the app is a keep me unmuted thing. And essentially now the moment a co-host accidentally or perhaps on purpose mutes you, it automatically unmutes you. And it seems like a little thing, but when you have 12 meetings running and somebody mutes you and the computer is over there and you're not looking right at it, it may take you a couple of minutes to get the message from the attendees that the host is no longer providing audio. That then goes to the client. The client then comes to you and says, hey, room 12 doesn't have audio anymore. And then you walk over there and you're like, somebody muted me, and you press unmute. Now having that just be instant is a nice little feature that we baked into it, in addition to like a whole number of other things. But that's one of the little ones that's kind of cool.
Keep going. What are some of the other cool things?
The thing I'm most excited about is in our studio, we have a big LED wall where we put galleries or versions of galleries up on the rear wall. And it's not uncommon for large scale meetings to have a whole bunch of Zoom like tiles in the gallery where the camera is on, so it shows up on the gallery, even if you say show non-video participants, but there's like something over top of the lens. You're welcome, Alex, if you're watching. And you can't actually you don't see anybody. And again, it's not a big deal if you're not using the gallery for any production value. But when we're putting that production value on the rear screen to be part of the show, it's really annoying. So manually, you go through and you click on the little three buttons and you ask them to, or you stop their video. Well, this app has a little something that we're calling the Zoom Gallery Monitor, and basically it has a really low res version of all of the galleries come through it, and then we're using object detection through the macOS SDK to look for faces, and any tile like within 15 seconds, it checks every 5 seconds, and if you miss 5 second or 3 check-ins in a row with no face, it automatically turns your camera off. And then Grant had the brilliant idea to, the moment you turn their camera off, of course they show back up and they're like, why is my camera off? And they try to turn it back on and they can't because as the host, you've turned off their camera, and then it'll say the host has turned off your camera, please contact them or whatever. So we send them a little DM, and this is all automated, which is awesome. Send them a little DM that says, hey, we noticed you were away from your camera, so we turned it off. If you would like to turn your camera back on, just reply to this message with the words, I'm back, and we'll ask you to turn your camera on. And they type in the words, I'm back, and the app automatically fires the ask to start video command to that particular participant. And it's for the first time the first time ever, we had galleries that without any effort from our team were nothing but actual humans, which was pretty cool. So that's pretty epic.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Can you talk to, I mean, what I think is most amazing about this is that this is a really advanced app doing a whole bunch of these features, and you have zero experience in developing Mac apps, right?
I have zero.
And are you even?
Sorry, go ahead.
And are you touching Xcode at all?
No. So the only thing I used Xcode for was to log in to my developer account and essentially have the signatures in order to be able to sign an app that gets distributed. Everything else I'm doing through, I'm using Cursor for the majority of my vibe coding work. And Cursor is essentially using the Xcode CLI to even build and run the app, to compile the app, all of the things that you think you need to be in Xcode to do. There's a CLI command that, I mean, I don't really know it, but Cursor does, or more specifically, probably GPT 5.4 does, which is what I'm using these days. And I never log into Xcode, except for, like I said, that first time setting up a new computer. I have to log into Xcode, set up my account. But beyond that, you don't even have to create the project file in Xcode. There are CLI commands to do that as well, and the models, generally speaking, know how to do it, which was a huge surprise to me. I really up until that point, I'd been doing nothing but like web-based vibe coding, which is also super cool because, to your point, Grant, I really am not a coder. It's a foreign language, not just a different language. It's a foreign language that I don't speak. So to be able to pull some of these things off is really quite incredible.
I think that's the point, though, is that being another language, you don't need to speak it, and so now you're fluently speaking to someone in German, and you don't know any German, and it's like it's just working. But what's amazing to me is that I tried to do some of what you have done, in Xcode using, you know, the latest and it was a big push in OS 26. It was like now Xcode has ChatGPT built in, a codex built in, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff, and you could do some surface level stuff, but there was still things that were like, oh, that's a main setting that I can't touch. It's like, what? I just want you to go and change that setting. No, I can't touch it. Whereas you're kind of going a step way before that, where you're just touching the raw files, and any of the settings that it needs to change are in those files, and so it's just able to do it there, right?
Yeah, even the preliminary setup of the Zoom SDK, which needs you have to do a whole, like if you do it manually, you have to do a whole bunch of settings inside of Xcode to make sure that your app gets access to camera, gets access to microphone, all of those things. I don't even know what that's called, if I'm being fair, if I'm being honest. Like I did it once when I was trying to do this a little bit more manually, kind of exactly what you're talking about through Xcode. And I was like, I'm done. I don't have the patience for this, and I've got way more important things to do. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, dude, just ask the model to do it. I'm like, what do you mean the model? He's like, use cursor, don't use Xcode, but just tell it you're building a Swift app and go from there. And then he was like, oh, and then go to skills.sh, I think, and download a bunch of skills that like a bunch of Swift skills for your project. And now all of a sudden your model speaks Swift and understands all of the different things that you're trying to accomplish. And yeah, it was pretty epic.
Well, the thing that's it's been fun for me, because not only is it, you know, a great Zoom app, but you built in this auto sort of login for Obvio, and so, you know, it pulls in all of the organization and the events and the, you know, all of that just comes in. Yeah.
Well, and like little things like you and I have talked about this, so I know you agree with me. But like the new host tools interface in Zoom is like the most aggravating thing. Like what used to take one click now takes 17. And all of those settings we are presetting inside the app now. So before you even launch a meeting, inside your app, you just basically say, okay, these are the settings that I want. So like, I don't want people to be able to unmute themselves. I don't want them to be able to share screen. I do want them to be able to chat and turn on their video, but I don't want them to be able to ask for recordings. Like all of those things that we manually go through right now or prior to this in host tools and would like toggle on and off. Now it's just preset. My app remembers it on my computer anyway, because it's instance based, right? So it's machine based. And yeah, so it's a lot faster to load Zoom meetings and be set up. Like it no longer takes 3 minutes for every Zoom meeting that you're setting up, and you don't have to, oh man, I forgot that one setting, and all of a sudden people are, you know, asking to share a screen or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then to your thoughts about where we're going next, which is to be able to do a little bit of central control and have like a site that can control multiple instances of the app is we'll see where that goes, but that should be fun.
That's the next frontier, but it does already feel like I think from going back to just the idea of being able to develop something that wasn't possible before, the speed at which you're able to do it means that you're jumping versions, like the things that you're talking about, some of those advanced features is not just like, oh yeah, I've played around with the SDK and I've got a couple of little things working, which is where we were 6 months ago, whatever. Like now it was just like, oh, over a weekend, I've got a properly working, functioning, you know, product, and even to the point where you've added the auto updates, you know, for it to download updates, for it to and this was the thing, Mickey, you asked last week, talking about being able to launch multiple instances. It was like, it's just another button. Click here, launch another instance, and now you can run multiple Zoom instances on one computer at your own risk, you know, depending on. But obviously that worked pretty well.
We ran 3. I've been known to run more than I should on on individual Macs in the past. We ran 3 on MacBook Pros, M2 MacBook Pros, and yeah, I didn't have any issues, which was pretty awesome. Now I didn't run the gallery monitor on that. That was just the application, but we were running the chat monitor on it. And we had some people blocked from chat. We had the profanity filter and the URL filter on. So
Nice.
when somebody, I'm sure you guys have experienced this if you've hosted larger meetings, people go in and self-promote. They're like, hey, check out my stuff, right? And then the client invariably comes to you and says, hey, can we delete that message? And you can, but then you have to go find it because it's probably up 10 pages of chats. We added a little filter or a little toggle to the chat portion of the application that essentially deletes messages that have links in it immediately. You can't prevent them from going into the chat, but you can delete them near instantly. And we're doing the same thing with blocking individual participants. So rather than having to turn off the chat for everybody, if we were really upset about Grant's posts in the chat, we could just block him. Now, he can still post, but his message gets deleted like near instantly. So it's a little hacky, but it works.
Yeah, it really works. And this is what's cool is that being able to build these tools from people that are doing it day in, day out, it's just like, oh, this is the problem we have all the time. When you were talking about, the host being muted, I think about, I think most, if not all of, the big events that we do, it happens once or twice. It's like someone's muted the host and it takes 30 seconds for us to hear about it. And then we're like, and everyone's upset. They can't hear. To have that just issue go away, like it's just not a problem anymore, is pretty awesome. But also seeing a gallery view, and it's like tiles, like Zoom tiles, you're able to sort of pick the people that you want in the gallery view, but to go that another step where it's checking and it's turning off video for you, means that those gallery views aren't just good for people that are using tiles and seeing tiles, but they're good for everyone. That means that everyone that's looking at that gallery view is now seeing a gallery view that's full of faces, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Peter?
Well, I was just going to ask Blue if he had to. I mean, there's a phrase out there these days called prompt engineering. How much did you relearn how to talk to your computer?
So I think that prompt engineering is, for the most part, no longer a thing. I think it was a thing about 6 months ago. Like, you really had to know how to talk to the models. But the models have gotten smart enough that they just understand us now. What I do think that I have that some people may not have when they're getting into this, is I got to work with developers for about 5 years as we were building Obvio, and they speak a different language. Like, developers speak a different language, right?
That's me.
Okay, so if you're a developer, you already speak the language. Good job. You know how to talk to yourself, but I'm not. And and I found that, or I find that, like, when I watch other people prompt AI when they're vibe coding, and I compare it to how I talk to it, like, I talk to the models very much the same way I talk to our dev team. And I've kind of gotten to learn, I can sound really intelligent, like I really know what I'm talking about, when it comes to how to build something, even though I really have no idea how to actually do it. But it's because I've learned how to speak developer, if you will, and I think that helps a lot. It's not really prompt engineering; it's just learning to talk to developers.
Well, what I found for myself, because I did programming and engineering professionally for so many years, is I actually had to stop thinking that way when talking to the model.
Mm.
Because I'd overthink it, the question or what I wanted to do, and it didn't really want to go down that path. And then when I let it go down that path, oh, that works a whole lot better than I would have done it.
So there was Lex Friedman interviewed Peter Steinberger, the OpenClaw guy, about a month or so ago, give or take. And in the middle of the episode, it's like, I don't know, 3 hours long. It's insanely long. But in the middle of the episode, he talks a little bit about how he interacts and engages with models because he's not writing code, right? Um, Peter is primarily vibe coding, and listening to he had to say he said the exact same thing, Peter, where he said I had to learn to trust the model. And interestingly, he said it's not all that different than working with dev teams because they're not always going to write the code exactly how you're going to write it. But if they write it good enough that it works, it's good enough.
Yep.
Well, I think that's the chat element of it as well, right? Like it's supposed to be just natural language that it's working on. And Bo Caudle said prompt engineering has become context engineering,
Yeah.
which is
yeah.
absolutely true. Yeah, it's about providing the right information. And I think that Blue sometimes plays down his role in all of this, and I have to
Well,
pump him
I
up
mean,
sometimes
I
because
don't play down the fact that I've never written a single line of code, right? I mean,
sure.
I can write I can write HTML with the best of them, but you integrate CSS and I'm lost. Okay, so like that's the extent of my my writing of code. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that it's about how you've driven it and you keep driving it. It's like, oh, there's got to be a way. It's like, okay, no, that's not the right way. No, not that way, not that way. This, like try again, yes, that way. And so keeping on slamming through it, but also always like I feel like now it's it's not about the development time, it's the thinking time to plan what it is that you want next. It's like, oh, this is the next feature I want, and now actually I want these next 4 features, and I'll get it to start building all 4 at once. And that's been the game changer.
Well, I think Bo's really, really, really right. Context engineering is key. And every time you start a new thread, I think everybody kind of gets this, but for the most part, AI is looking at your code for the first time. It has no idea, right? Every thread is a brand new thread. And one of the things that I started doing about 3 or 4 months ago is every time I finished a project, every time I finished a thread, really, and I tried to do it before it compresses, right? So if I got close to the context window, is basically, hey, write an MD file, write some documentation on everything that we've done in this, and drop it in the docs folder. And now every time you go to build something new, as you're asking it, you drop the docs folder or the specific file that you have documentation or AI-driven documentation for this project, and all of a sudden, AI gets tremendously smarter as you're getting started.
Are they generally like there's the 2 different MD files in the agent MD, and then there's the README MD, which is sort of, AI versus human readable. You're not caring too much about the README. It's all the
I'm not even caring about the agent all that much. I actually have in almost all of our projects, or all of my projects, I have a docs folder, and for each of the major things that the application can do or that I've worked on, there is usually a implementation file that has documentation about the decision-making process that actually took place. And AI writes it. I never even look at these files, right? At the end of a thread, I say, hey, so that you don't forget, right? And I think I have a command for it. I can't remember exactly what the exact prompt is, but basically it's like, go through, don't worry about code samples, but code references. And if we delete something, or if we change, like if we make a decision about why we did, like why the application does something a certain way, include that decision so that it can be used for future context, so that the model doesn't revert on itself, which they do.
Yeah. I've just done a big jump to there's a big website that I've kind of look after. It's got a whole bunch of different features on it, and I've been resistant to go to a repository, a Git repository, and I finally did it over the weekend, and so now I'm sort of building out some of those things because I've got to teach it again what this feature is for. Like, sure, it can read the code, but just by reading the code doesn't necessarily give it an understanding as to what it's for and why it does it and what else it connects to and stuff. And so now which is another thing with the planning function that I really like in Codex, is when you're in plan mode in Codex, you're able to just say, okay, ask me a bunch of questions about why this exists. And what's cool in that plan mode, I'm sure people have seen it, but is when it asks you a question, it'll give you some suggested answers, and then it's just a menu, and you can say, yeah, that's the answer, or no, let me give you more context, and it just flows through it. So I'm really kind of liking that experience that builds out the repo better, and then means that when you go to ask it to do something, it's pulling those MD files automatically in those subfolders and gets extra context. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, I mean, we can do, we should probably, in office hours, we're getting to the point, if Guy was here, this would have turned into another hour of just talking about vibe coding. But we probably need to start doing a show dedicated to just AI coding and stuff, because it's pretty amazing what people are doing, the tools that they're creating for themselves. So it's a great example of it. But at some point, Blue, I was thinking that a Zoom Test Kitchen would be pretty awesome to show, to actually demo, the Obvio app and show them how that's all working and stuff. Yeah, that'd be fun.
It'll be fun.
All right, next question.
Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington asks, so for a while, N8N.io was top of mind for a lot of people. Nowadays, I don't hear about it. Is anyone still using it?
Blue, you played with it for a bit.
I did. And, I think N8N is essentially a much more powerful Zapier, right? Essentially. I'm simplifying it greatly. But I think a lot of the people who had built out agent models and so on and so forth are kind of moving into, I think a lot of them are moving into OpenClaw, Claude Cowork, Perplexity, like some of the AI-driven things, even simple applications like, or simple websites like Poke. Anyway, some of the things that I could do, that I was doing with N8N, I've transitioned into actual applications. But I think it's an amazing platform. I just don't use it very much.
Yeah, fair enough. Next question.
Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, BC, Canada asks, is there only one review of the ATEM, or no, there is only one review of the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2 by ProAV on YouTube, posted 3 months ago. Typically, new Blackmagic design products get swarmed by reviewers. Thoughts on the lack of fanfare for this product?
Yeah, that's interesting. Courtney?
Maybe they didn't send out as many of them to influencers. And, this product is one, it's kind of an update. And I looked on to see, well, maybe it isn't shipping yet, because that is a problem now with the shortage of memory.
No, it's
and
shipping.
I know it says it's in stock at B&H, so I went to look at it, and I did notice one thing. It has 2 reviews, one 5-star and one 1-star. So you got to think about that. The 1-star guy, I did read his review, and he complained. Speaking of fanfare, he did speak about the fan noise being totally unacceptable. So if you're a YouTuber and using this on your desk as your only means of switching, maybe the fan noise is such a problem that people just don't really want to say much about it. And also, it's one of their more expensive all-in-one switchers. Plus, it's HDMI inputs as opposed to SDI. And usually, if you're going to step up to a G2 or something, you'll transition from HDMI to SDI rather than to go to G2 of the HDMI. So I think that's why I think this product is a little bit misguided. But maybe do they have the G2 version of the SDI version of the?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. So it's kind of the migration path is not upward, it's sideways and down. So I think maybe that's why you're not seeing a lot of reviews on it.
Yeah. Blue?
I think price is a big issue. You know, it's an expensive piece of gear for what it does. And if I had to guess, people who are up at that price point are probably thinking about the Rodecaster video or even the Video S. But even just the video, which is I think more powerful in some ways, and you know, just as non-production, if you will.
Yeah, my take on it, as I think about it, is totally about the pricing and where it's positioned in the lineup. I think it might actually be the wrong form factor for what it does. I think it's got great features, but I think it should just be rack mounted. If it was rack mounted and you're talking about ISO recording, you're doing a bunch of HDMI. Like in this instance, HDMI could be quite good. You want to connect a bunch of computers into it. That's really handy, but it doesn't need to be sitting on the desk. And you can tie it in with, companion whatever else, or the other control surfaces that you want, and not have a million cables hanging in sitting on your desk. So I think it's the wrong form factor, and I don't think, because it is competing with the other ATEM constellations and things. It's just, and so if we think about that too from a review point of view, Alexander, I think that when the big constellations came out, like when the 80 input version came out, I don't see a lot of reviews about that. The other constellations, I don't see a lot of reviews, whereas the really entry level ATEMs, there's a million reviews. And so I think it shows, because of the pricing, that it's kind of up in that level where there isn't just a bunch of reviews about it. Jason?
Well, and if you think about it, how many of us have ended up with the third $2,000-esque, version of this form factor of thing? And it's also kind of a weird halfway in between thing. In the same announcement, they talked mightily about their version of 2110, except it wasn't 2110; it was Blackmagic Design's version of 2110. And it's HDMI, which is kind of antithetical to the whole idea of Ethernet goes forever, and Ethernet's a long-running thing, whereas HDMI is precisely not that. So it's a weird halfway in between thing where it's like, if you're going to do HDMI and 2110, I'm not surprised that again, we are a gear first community, and most of us have not spent that money, and it's not because we don't have the money to spend; it's because we don't have any reason to spend it.
Yep, it's true. Peter?
Well, I'm just going back to what Courtney said earlier. I mean, I went from an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO to a 2ME because I wanted the SDI. I wanted the SDI. I got that before, I think 6 months before they came out with the STI version of the Mini Extreme, but still I like the SDI. Now, what does that mean? I have a large collection of converter boxes to get HDMI out of my computer into SDI, but they're all hidden. They're all hidden.
Yep. And as Mickey says, why get that when the Constellation 2ME is cheaper? So yeah, that's true. And to the point then that Zach also says is, what would be cool is just a 1RU 8 ISO record, box, which would be really nice. Which is one of the features that this has as an ISO recorder of 8 channels that we don't really have elsewhere. So yeah, that would be nice. Courtney, last word.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with Blue because I'm running the Rodecaster Video S here, and the Rodecaster Video S, even though and I bought it when it was priced at $500, now it's up to $800 because it's jumped in price like crazy.
Because it has oil in it. Is that why?
Yeah, I guess
Tariffs.
it has RAM in it, even more expensive than oil.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And the problem is the original video. I guess its price jumped as well. I haven't priced it lately. It was $1,200, but probably about $1,500 now. But it does super source, and it handles NDI, and it has a variety of inputs, and it has USB-C inputs that it kind of can use. uh, for webcams and things without having to use adapters. Plus, it has macros built in, and it has a whole
Yeah.
lot of features. The Video S has that if you want HDMI input switcher, it can handle, and a heck of a lot cheaper for like half the price. So it sits in a difficult position unless you're all ATEM, and you want to use the ATEM software control. And of course, the Rodecaster now has the Video Core as well, which is a cheaper version, which is a no switches on your desk. It's more to mount in a rack that you can control through the software or through the Rodecaster Pro audio switcher, so audio mixer. So that's another competitor that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Well, Blackmagic and Rode are both Australian companies, so I win either way. So, next question.
John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania says, here's a teleprompter app I created on Claude last week during the Extra Hours show. How is that even possible? Includes his link. Cool.
Nice, John. Courtney's going to have a little play with it and see whether it gets a nod of approval from Teleprompter Man.
I haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, but I'm just bringing
you
it up
have to
now.
play.
But I'll have to
I'm-
take a look at it. It works in a browser apparently,
Yeah.
and I haven't loaded
I'm not
any
at all surprised, John, like
script
with some of the
into
stuff
it.
that I've been able to do in the browser, and just this is what I want, do this, force it to do this. That can be sometimes like digital signage stuff that I've done that is not standard browser functionality, or the way that a user would, flow through a website. And it's totally able to do it. So yeah, that's very cool. Nice work.
I mean, that's what it
Yep.
looks like.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to increase the size of the script here to see how
There
well
you
it
go.
wraps and to see how well it scrolls. Well, it scrolls pretty smooth, but
It's pretty smooth, yeah.
can you control the speed on the fly? That's the question.
Oh,
Because that is what's
it's getting a ruthless
crucial
review, John. Look out.
It's a crucial key to, well, I guess you have to tie it into the mouse or something, but I guess vibe
Yeah.
coding can do all that stuff for you if you just tell it to use the
Totally
scroll
can.
wheel on the mouse to control the speed of the scrolling.
Robert Green is right. Stream Deck knobs for the win there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you totally could line that up. But
I mean, the speed is tied to your arrow keys already on it. Like left arrow and up arrow both speed it
Is
up,
that how
and
it
down
does
and
it? Like
down
I
and
say, I
right.
haven't had a chance to read the instruction manual
cool.
or even just, try it
That's
out
pretty
every
awesome.
12
You
seconds.
just play around. That's really cool. Courtney, did you use sometimes there's like those dedicated devices for the speed, sort of like a ramp tool or something? Like, is that, I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, well, I designed a hand controller for all of our teleprompters, and most of them either have a knob that you turn forward or backward so that you can go. The other trick is you have to be able to move the text at a variable speed, continuously variable speed. So you got to slow down if you come up with a line that has a telephone number in it, for example. If you're reading a line of text that's 20 characters long and it's a telephone number, it's going to take you a lot longer to read that line than it would be if it's just 3 words. So you have to be able to slow down so that stuff doesn't go off the screen before you have a chance to read it. And you have to be able to continuously vary the smooth scroll speed, and preferably if you're doing something that is other than live video, be able to scroll backwards easily. So bidirectional, so that you can go from forward to backward without it jumping around so that you lose your place. So that's one of the more difficult things to do, but I imagine AI can probably do all that stuff for you these days without it, worrying about it. Oh, it's scrolling up across a memory division. How does it deal with that? And
Oh, it detects the
I've
phone
se-
number and slows down itself.
It uses
things
AI.
like that.
It goes off and it sends an AI token,
Seriously.
and then as you're scrolling the text, it pops up a window that says, "You're out of tokens. Please insert another $20 in your credit card."
Nice. Next question.
Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, BC, Canada asks, when traveling to other countries, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned to ensure you were prepared? From what to pack, to how you pick hotels, to how to deal with cultural differences can be production related or not.
Blue?
Well, living here in the US, having originally grown up in Canada, I think it's important for Alexander to know that it's not that different down here, and it's the same power. So you can come down to the States, and it basically is like working with someplace in Canada. My guess is he's asking about outside of North
Same
America,
here,
so
yeah.
I'll stop talking now.
You've got some experience in traveling over into Europe and places like that.
Not as much as I would like.
Did your French Canadian help you when you're in France?
Yeah. After about 4 days, the first couple days, it helps me not at all. It has to come back to me.
Courtney?
Yeah, beware the language barrier too, especially if you're going to deal with computers over there. And you bring your own computer along, but I remember back in '94, I was in Tokyo doing the rollout of Windows 95 Japan. And it was my job to get it installed and running on all the machines that we're going to shoot for the commercials, shot in Tokyo. And I got there and into the hotel, and they brought the machines over to me from Hitachi, and Sony computers. These are computers. And I realized that, hey, they ran Japanese DOS, and I don't read kanji.
With a Japanese keyboard, I assume.
Yes, with the Japanese keyboard. And I had to install Windows 95 on a Japanese version of DOS, using a Japanese version of DOS to load the Japanese version of Windows. And if I didn't, recognize, oh, this screen, I think this is asking me if I want to do this, and I see all the characters, and I went, okay, yes. Or choice number two, I installed Windows enough times to remember it's the second choice down is the one I choose. But yeah, don't forget about the language barrier and have a translator. And I had a little girl there in the hotel room. No, just as a translator, sorry, a young woman, let's say, to translate the error screens. And the problem was that technical translations don't always work between English and Japanese very well. So sometimes, she would say, move to window up and sideways. You have to, the translation sometimes can be very tough. But these days with AI translation, everything should be a whole lot easier. But, and also with Google Glass, you have the app on your phone that you just hold it up and eyeglasses, or what is this called? Spyglass, the one that just takes and translates all the
Yeah.
signs.
I mean, now it's just called Google Translate.
Google Translate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have the camera version of it that will translate all the signs into whatever language you want to, and paste them into the image automatically for you. So that's a lot handier to have.
Yeah, I did that. I was just recently in Austria, and there was a couple of signs that actually it was a menu, and I just was able to put Apple Translate, just held the camera up and it translated. It showed me exactly what it was. I could talk a fair bit about this, Alexander, but I think there's a couple of key things. One is I'm a little bit paranoid about my connectivity. Like I always want my phone to just work wherever. And most recently I've used Saily is like a Saily is a an eSIM provider, and works really well. So I was able to install an eSIM for Austria. I bought like 20 gig, and it was, I don't know, $10 or something, $10 US. And so that eSIM was already installed when I landed. It fired up straight away. And so I love having eSIMs are awesome for travel, because my primary SIM was still working. So I still get text messages. I still get phone calls on my primary number, and I choose whether I answer it and spend money on international roaming or not. But the data is handled. So that's one key thing. And same with the hotel room. I always take a travel router, and so that I can either repeat or sort of reshare the Wi-Fi that's in the hotel, or sometimes there's Ethernet, and I do that, and then all my devices just work. And then the last thing is like internet and power. The last thing is that often, depending on where you're going, the outlets might be different, and so I always get some adapters, and then I take power strips or power boards. So I have a couple of power strips. I can have one in the hotel room and one, wherever I'm going. And now all my devices just plug in and work. So that's from a technical point of view. And the last thing I'd say just about language, and my experience first time I was in Germany, and I was in a hotel lobby, and a waitress came over to take an order, and she just spoke in German. She looked at me and thought, this dude looks European. And it really took me by surprise because, and it kind of felt like the white male English speaking privilege that I just live in, where for that moment I just felt like in the minority, and felt like, oh yeah, I'm not home now, and I shouldn't just expect that everyone will, even if they know English, will just speak English.
It happened to me in France, and it freaked me out every single
Yeah,
time.
that's right. Yeah, and so I do feel like when you're able to just learn a few words, hello, thank you, those sorts of things, and then I think it goes a long way in people saying at least you're trying a little bit, and I mean, this person, she just switched to English, and she had very fluent English, as lots of European countries do. But I don't think it should be an expectation. And so I tend to just try to have more of a humble approach. Even in Ubers and things like that, it was like, I don't expect it. And that got me a long way. And then generally they spoke enough English, and it worked okay. But I think that's a good approach to have. You're on their land, it's like you're a visitor. And so some respect goes a long way. Blue, you want to add last thought?
Yeah, I mean, two things. I agree with you 100% on language, right? I mean, you just try. I mean, you joke a little bit about my French Canadian, but even in France, you try to speak French, and if they can speak English, they will just start speaking English immediately. If they don't start speaking English immediately, it's because they actually don't speak English. Whereas if you just start speaking to them in English, they get irritated, and even if they speak perfect English, they speak to you in French. The other thing that I'd say, and I don't think anybody's said it yet, Alexander, we live in countries that power is, I'm going to speak about something I barely understand again. Power is 110 here in the United States and Canada. If you're going overseas or basically anywhere else in the world, make sure that all of your bricks, all of your adapters are go from 110 to, what is it, is it 220 or 240?
240.
Yeah. Don't rely on adapters. Don't rely on converters. If you have something that only accepts 110, don't bother taking it, in my opinion. Like, just don't even bother.
Just blow up.
Yeah.
And when electronics are involved, you want a pure sine wave. You want something that will actually convert the alternating current, right? Because 220 at 50 and 110 at 60 are very much not the same thing.
Very different.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't even know what he said, Alexander, just so we're on the same page. What Jason just said sounded like a different language to me. It's kind of like coding.
I because of daylight saving, it's ruined my calendar, and so I need to jump to another meeting, and I'm just going to throw the ball to Jason to finish.
I'll
this
take
up.
over. We
Thank you.
We hopped over Peter. Peter, did you have something to say on this question before we go on? Oh, there we go. What is that?
So this is a book that, when I used to travel a whole bunch for the IBM company, any employee that was traveling more than 3 times a year to very different parts of the world, actually the security team, IBM's internal security team, would hand this to the employee. And I was focusing on how to deal with cultural differences, and that was one of the parts of the question. this is a book that will actually, for 60 different countries, give you some insight into the cultural differences. And Courtney, I can appreciate your problem with Japan. I was sitting in the restaurant at the Hotel Okura in Tokyo, and on the menu was an English menu, and it said offered a ham and cheese sandwich, and that's what I really wanted for lunch. What I got was a ham sandwich and a cheese sandwich.
Wow.
But it was literal. Yeah.
It was. That's right.
Courtney, did you have something to add on this question?
Yeah, I was going to point out one other cultural difference when shooting in Japan, which we ran into, and this is especially true if you're shooting, doing any kind of production where you have to load in equipment. In Japan, outside shoes are not allowed indoors in houses. And so we were loading in equipment with, tons of boxes and lights and equipment, and they were in a truck across a gravel driveway. And so you had to get to the door, take your shoes off, pick up whatever it is you were carrying, carry it, set it down, and go back, put your shoes back on, go to the truck, get the next object, come to the door, set it down, unlace your shoes, take your shoes back off, go into. So make sure you carry slip-on shoes with you if you're going to be in a and check the culture, because many of the cultures don't allow outside shoes inside. And if you're having to bring equipment into a production, that can slow down load in by about 50%.
At least 50%. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so the last part in keeping true to form with the extra hours tradition is content recommendations. Now, if you don't have anything, no reason to raise your hand. I will start it off by saying that Hail Mary was a fantastic movie. I saw it opening night. It did the book justice, and that is the highest praise I can ever give to a movie that is based on a book. To me, there is none higher. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that is better than its book. But to hold a candle to the book is usually the standard that I tend to go with. Courtney, what do you have?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it in IMAX or not, but it's in multiple
I
aspect
did,
ratios,
yeah.
which is strange. It's 2:3:3,
Yeah, throughout the
4
movie,
by
they
3.
switch
Yeah,
the
and
aspect
whenever it
ratio.
switches between time periods, the aspect ratio changes. Curious. So I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm still just started watching, haven't had a chance to finish watching yet. There's a new documentary out on Paul McCartney that's on Amazon Prime. It's free if you're if you have Amazon Prime, and gosh, who doesn't these days? So it's called Man on the Run, and it's about Paul McCartney's career after he left that group called the Beatles. So it's his Wings period and post Beatles documentary. So it's very interesting, and a lot of archival footage which you haven't seen before. So that's interesting.
And it's free for anyone who gives them the $2, right?
Prime, who gets things delivered every day.
Got it. Very good. Blue, what do you have?
I recently have started watching with my wife The Last Thing He Told Me on Apple TV. We got through the first season. They just recently released the second. It was originally supposed to be, I think, just a single series run, but it apparently did well enough that they decided to order a second season of it. And it's really enjoyable. It's a thriller, and it kept my attention. We actually made it all the way through. That's not true of a lot of things these days that are just horrible. But this was actually really good. So it was something that we enjoyed watching over the course of a few weeks.
Very good. And if you like what you see, you can see it pretty much every day of the week, with the exception of Sundays. If you go to officehours.global/join, that will give you a chance to join into our back end. We have a Discord. We have an entire community that has, as we said at the very beginning of the show, has been going since 2020, every single day. So the thank yous. Thank you very much to the back end crew who you don't see, but Jason, Taylor, Alan, Robert, and Peter doing all the good stuff in the back end, as well as the small village that lights up the Office Hours global community. The Tlaloc Traversal. Oh, thank you to the panelists for for taking the time and, you know, doing the panelist thing. I like to joke, are the least talented part of this show, but we are the most forward facing. It's just one of these odd little things where for every one of us, there are 20 people in Discord that are doing similar things and, you know, and are interacting just in new and interesting and different ways. You can also get into after hours.
Guessing us as we go.
Hey, you know what? That's part of it. You know, you can also, that's really the other reason to join is you can have there is a panel that is always just kind of going counter to whatever it is we're saying. And, you know, of course, the goal here is not to give answers without exceptions. It's to give exceptional answers. Hopefully we do that more often than not. The Tlaloc traversal is 10,000 miles this episode, 16,000 kilometers, and 80,000 bananas for scale for those who are keeping track. Thank you. Let's go back to After Hours.